think we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. I hope everybody's having a good evening. Anyway, tonight's live stream is going to be about the attacks on Russia that happened to their nuclear strike force, and that's major. I usually don't talk about, I try to concentrate on what's happening in America, but that's pretty serious because, Russia, they can affect America. Anyway, we're going to talk about that first. And then we're going to talk about Juneteenth and a whole month to celebrate the downfall of our society. Crazy. So anyway, if you want to fast forward a couple minutes into it, about 2 or 3 minutes in, well, I got to talk a few minutes so people start showing up to the live stream so notifications get sent out and stuff. Anyway, I'm at home right now at my farm place in southern Nebraska, and tomorrow I'll be going back up to northern Nebraska and pasture lands and cowboy country to go back to my fencing business that I do. Plenty of job security when you do a job that nobody wants, and you can pretty much charge what you want, There's no competition. So it's a nice way to spend my senior years, I guess you could say. I'm out there in the middle of nowhere in those pastures, going along fence. I got my dogs with me and stuff, making shorts, doing a little bit of YouTube-y stuff. But anyway, I'll be back up there tomorrow doing my live streams and stuff. And unless I really work hard one day and I get really tired and stuff, and I get back to the bunkhouse and I lay down and I pass out, well, I may miss the live stream then. But anyway, I got to wait for people to show up. YouTube's been they clamp down on my channel hard sometimes, okay? And, if I start getting too many views or my channel starts growing too much, I get too many subscribers, YouTube starts clamping down pretty hard. So, they do that with all those conservative channels, and all social media platforms do it. Even X. Even Elon Musk has a bias that he's got programmed to his algorithms too. We got computers checking stuff, silencing people, canceling people out, done by a computer. I guess that's kind of like the auto pen deal, huh? We got a computer signing the president's signature. Who all knows what was signed in the signature that signed in the law, or pardons that were given and stuff. But anyway, we got AI restricting our First Amendment. We got presidents using auto pen to sign bills. We got the ATF, which restricts our regulates, I won't say restrict, regulates our Second Amendment, right? They don't understand what shall not be infringed means. Oh, what's that mean? Shall not be infringed. Oh, we'll make bump stocks illegal. Okay, this is a craziness. Anyway, let's get into the attacks on Russia. Okay, attack done inside of Russia. They're calling a terrorist attack, attacking their nuclear bombers and their sub bases and stuff. It was quite calculated and organized attack, and they said it's been going on been in the planning for 18 months. And then Trump comes out and says he knew nothing about it, which I find very hard to believe that Ukraine would just go out and do that, because our government had to have helped them in some shape, way, or form in that 18 months, okay? And Russia knows that. But for Trump to say he didn't know that it happened and he's still going to support Ukraine, we need to get out of Ukraine, period, okay? Before the bombs start falling on this nation. But Russia, everybody needs to know, Russia could end that war in just a couple seconds. Just a couple seconds and that war would be over if they really fought it where they wanted to win it. a few hypersonic missiles with tactical nukes on them or small yield nukes in a few key places, and that war is over. What's the West going to do? Do you think our government is going to sit there and launch nuclear weapons against Russia and its interests because Ukraine got hit with some small yield nuclear weapons and decided that peace was better? Do you think Europe's going to risk war like that with Russia? No. But Russia could end this real quick. I really don't know why they don't. But, if as much of their nuclear bomber fleet was taken out that they say was taken out, I mean, can you imagine if the U.S. was even suffering anything like Russia's going through now with this war? Apartments, buildings being bombed and all this stuff. I mean, yeah, we had a terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado today, where a bomb went off or improvised explosive device went off next to a crowd of pro-Israeli protesters. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. Okay, Russia now their bombers are getting hit by a calculated. I don't know how they did it. Everybody says that all these countries have these great intelligence gathering apparatuses. No, they don't. If they can plan an 18-month attack inside of Russia by their nuclear bases, their strategically nuclear bases, and get away with it, using $1,000 or $2,000 ordnance to blow up something that's worth $7 billion. I mean, it's crazy time. But, Russia could end this real quick. And I don't know why they don't. It'd save the U.S. a lot of money, but the U.S. needs to back out of this before it does go nuclear, before we do paint ourselves in a corner where we're forced to act. I don't know, to save our pride or whatever. Oh, because we want our few hundreds of billions of dollars back. I think it's time to cut that ass of loss in hope that we don't have Russia attacking the command and control centers of the Ukraine war. Remember how they said that one time? Well, they've said it more than once. Well, that would definitely be the Pentagon and the White House. Targets in D.C., NATO targets. What about places that manufacture the parts that go in these drones and stuff that they have? Anyway, Russia could end this in just a few seconds. The war's over. And they would call NATO's and the US's bluff. And the US and NATO aren't going to go nuclear over to save Ukraine. They just aren't going to. I know that. So I don't know why this war is still persisting. Anyway, maybe the military-industrial complex in Russia likes making money just as much as the military-industrial complex in the United States likes making money. Maybe that's why that war is persisting. Because it should have never went on as long as it did, even with the U.S. help. All right? Jeepers Cripes, way Russia kicked the shit out of Nazi Germany. We talk about, there's 100,000 troops on the border for this battle. I mean, there were millions of troops on each side slugging it out with their equipment and hand-to-hand and stuff. If Russia really wanted to win this on the ground without going nuclear, they could. What is it, just a dog and pony show? But anyway, they're going to get so weakened by this war with Ukraine because they won't do nothing about it. It's all about money. Yep, and who pays? Where does this money come from again? The tax-paying citizen in every country pays for the war that country is involved with. The citizens finance it. But, wars aren't meant to be won anymore. There hasn't been a war won since World War II. Name one country that's won a war. I guess you could say maybe Britain won the Falkland Island War. Guess you could say that. Let's see, we didn't win North Korea. We didn't win Vietnam. We didn't win the war on terror. We really didn't win the Iraqi war. I mean, name one we won, okay? If war is persisting because Ukraine and their boys are fighting for their land, man, the war is party for money, but we got to remember there's humanity behind these fights. Yeah, but the politicians don't know that, okay? Because the politicians who want to start this fight, they ain't sending their kids over, okay? They're not going to be, unless the country starts completely falling apart, they're not going to be crying at graves. They'll be at the grave sites saying, oh, we're sorry, handing flags to people and stuff. Desert Storm was pretty decisive. Iraq was the fourth largest. Yeah, but see, this was the thing. When the first Iraqi war, and the second one, but the first Iraq war in 91, if we would have went in there and did what we did, took out Saddam Hussein then, we would have been more justified. But in that first Gulf War, you had 10,000 Iraqis surrendering to one Humvee. Why? Because the first Bush went over there to push him out of Kuwait, fight that war to get him out of Kuwait. We bombed him into craziness. What was it, for 31 days before we sent the ground troops in? Stop the bombs from falling, whatever, we're done. See, that's what happens but we didn't win that war, did we? Because we were in Iraq for 10 more years before we had the other Iraq war after we bombed them a few times in between then. Okay, the presidents did. But we didn't win that war. We just divided the people more. And now the country doesn't like us, okay? They're definitely not going to go to war with Iran like we want to. Yes, we bombed them out of Kuwait, which was the war. Yeah, that's why Bush stopped. Because he just said, get them out of Kuwait, okay? Yeah, we went to Baghdad, but, it wasn't a regime change type of thing. But I think if we would have did it back then, we would have been more justified than weapons of mass destruction that were never found. Okay? So that's war. Okay. We'll say Desert Storm was won. I'll go with you. Because, I was in service then. I like to say, yeah, wars were won when I was in. But it wasn't finished. It was... The first major battle was won, you might say. But the war was never really over. We never left. We were bombing them. Clinton was bombing them and stuff. Anyway, it's like the problem never went away, right? War doesn't mean internal subjugation of your opponents. No. I know it doesn't. But that's what happens. Okay. But we had the green zone. We were the better. The US doesn't go into any country and take second seat to anybody, at least when I was in. Okay, never did we bow down to another country. Only one time I remember when we were flying in Saudi Arabia wouldn't let us fly over their airspace because of the nature of what we were doing. And we had to fly around Saudi Arabia. We were in the air for a long time. But that's the only time I remember where things were deviated because of another country saying no. All right? And since the war on terror, we don't even listen to that anymore. But the war on terror, we definitely didn't win that one. Now, the war on the American people that they're having, we'll see how that one turns out, okay? Anyway, but this war with Russia, people don't understand. Russia has told us what they're going to do. They will bomb us. Anybody that's helping with this war, when they get their gander, when they really get riled up, they're going to start flinging missiles, okay? Especially if the damage to Russia was as bad as they say it was. I mean, imagine if a third of our B-52 strategic air strike force was taken out in one attack. That would be crazy. The U.S. would definitely do something. You know, the American people would be demanding it. You know, like I say, when the government wants to go to war, they need a false flag. When the people want war, the government just needs an excuse. Nah, we don't worry about planes. But if they touch our boats, well, you know, carrier group, they're sitting ducks, okay? Hypersonic nuclear tipped missile, airburst, you know, especially a big one over a fleet, an aircraft carrier fleet, and everything around it's going to take that fleet out. I don't care how sophisticated your ship is, okay? But are you a sailor in it, by the way? I was a jarhead, so I spent time on ship, okay? And I know how vulnerable I felt at sea compared to when I was on shore. I mean, I would have never wanted to be a sailor on a ship in World War II. I'd rather been the Marine taking my chances on shore. Okay, but yeah, the Navy, they put in some hard hours and stuff. You know, those ships run 24/7. They never stop. So anyway, but we need to get out of this war while we can. I don't want to see the bombs flying into our countries or even on our bases. I don't want to see anybody get hurt in this war, especially innocent victims. But, you know, that's one thing the government makes a lot of, innocent victims. Hello, Peter Gerard. Hey, well, I'm in this and got a few people here. If you had hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up. Hit the notification bell. Get this channel to start growing and stuff. YouTube, like I say, is really hard on me. You know, if I acted a little silly on here, it's just, you know, the videos, I guess this is one you could say the sky is falling, kind of. I try not to do these and stuff, but, you know, this is just something to pay attention to. This could get out of hand real quick. Russia took a major blow today that did months of planning, but really didn't take a lot of money to do. It's, you know, the details, we're never going to hear all the details. That's why I really don't go on details, because they're going to change over the next few days and stuff. But we're never going to get true story. Russia, how they fended off the attack and stuff, okay? Anyway, one thing I'm finding out about this war is, and everybody should realize, is that all this air defense that they talk about, that all these countries have, are so great. Did planes get destroyed? Yeah, I heard that 12 of their nuclear-capable bombers got destroyed. And I heard, you know, no subs got destroyed, but they attacked the sub base. I mean, this is deep inside Russia. I mean, it's not like these bases that house this type of equipment that can deliver these payloads are right on the border. Okay? But anyway, that's just one small part of it. And it's not the first time they attacked their bombers. I think they got what they got to them already. What? That's been 6, maybe 8 months ago and stuff. But this is war, people. This is war. It don't matter who started it, who was the aggressor. It doesn't matter at war. You attack, they attack. All right? And this is one thing about war. It progresses and gets worse. People get desensitized. It's not like they were firebombing cities at the end of the war, at the beginning of the war, like they did at the end of the war. Okay? I mean, the climax of World War II was 2 nuclear bombs. That's what it took. That's all what it had to finally get to end that war. So all this back and forth, this escalation, that's what wars do. They escalate till the other side's got the shit kicked out of it, and they can't fight no more. Whose land is it really? You know, if we were to go back to who owns the land, nobody. The conquerors, I guess, own the land from the people they conquered. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's just the way it is. I mean, you're going to go back to the ancient Roman day borders, the Babylonian day borders, the Persian day borders, the Greek borders, the Egyptian borders, Great Britain's borders they used to have. I mean, where exactly do you stop and say, okay, everything's got to go back to that? Okay? USSR. You talking communist USSR? Ukraine is an old, yeah. See, this is the thing too about wars. They rewrite maps. Look at a map before World War II. Look at a map after World War II. Or I mean World War I and after World War I. Okay? And then just before World War II and then after World War II. Which one should be the correct map? Because it seems like the people that live in those areas, they don't have much of a choice. That all gets decided because there were a lot of people that didn't want to live under the Iron Curtain after World War II. A lot of them. Okay? You know, why am I supposed to like Putin? I do like, he talks more nationalistic. He talks about, in a Soviet, Russian style, about coming to Russia, you need to speak the language, you need to assimilate to Russian culture, that type of stuff. I love to hear an American president say that, about coming to America and assimilating to America, learning English and stuff, like people that used to come here, okay? But, Putin's been in power a long time. He was a colonel in the KGB, okay? I'm sorry. I don't trust a politician. Whether it be Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Putin, Zelensky, I don't trust them. Macron, I don't put my faith in any man that sits there and... Anyway, let's see. Before World War I, the territory of modern Ukraine was part of various empires and states. In the 18th and 19th century, it was primarily known as Little Russia within the Russian Empire. We're all just here, man. We don't got to divide ourselves, all these lines. And yeah, see, this is the thing. When I traveled the world and I met people from other nations, other countries, I never had a problem getting along with them because I never sat there and acted, oh, I'm from the U.S. and I'm a Marine, I'm better than you. I never acted that way. I could assimilate it into a lot of the cultures I was introduced to. But I found out that people, the core human being is the same. Okay? When man sits there and goes to work to support his family, whatever his job is, he comes home and loves his family the same way as somebody does in the United States or Russia. The guy who comes home at work, sits and does some chores outside, comes home and eats, spends some time in front of the TV or whatever before he goes to bed, all over the world is just like a guy like me. Why the hell would I be mad at him? I'm not mad at the Russian people. Just like the Russian people should be mad at us. Our politicians are the ones that are screwing everything up. Remember, politicians, leaders of the country, bring days of infamy to that country, not the citizens of that country. Okay? Rare earth metals and farm food. Yeah, that's one thing. Wars are fought over resources. I'd say the American Revolution was really the only war that was fought over an idea to make men free. But, it's fought over resources. You want to say when World War II started, I like to say how they say it's when Germany invaded Poland. What about when Japan invaded Manchuria? Anyway, war is war. But, Japan had to sit there because they needed resources. And then, when the U.S. decided to do their embargoes and all that stuff in Japan, who imported most, but 90% of what the country needed, well, they had no other choice but to sit there and make sure their people weren't going to starve. They had to carve an empire out. Okay? But, I don't know why people just can't get along. Like I say, I traveled the world. I never had a problem, no matter what country I was in, getting along with the common person there. I never had a problem stopping on the street, talking to people, and having a discussion with them about anything. A lot of the questions were, this was back in the, late to mid 80s. And they would, when the United States was a better country back then, and I get a lot of questions about how the U.S. was. And of course, I'm more interested on how their country is. So we were able to have a conversation for hours, an interesting conversation where we both learned. And I never once felt animosity towards these people. And every society has people that want to stir stuff up, create problems and stuff. I mean, because that's just like human behavior in every culture. So, I just wish people could get the hell along. I don't understand all this division. I don't understand this. They say when you get out of the service and stuff, you become more passive. I don't think you become more passive because I can get my gander up pretty damn fast. People say you can get mad just like a drop of a hat. I said, yeah, well, in a firefight, how long does it take for the bullets to start flying? Okay, that's how fast I react. But, eventually, when everybody finds out who our true enemy is and the control, and it's happening all over the world. Like I say, the elites, they don't care what gender they are. They don't care what race they are. They don't care what nationality they are. It seems like the elites all get along. And all they want to do is create division among all us because they maintain control that way. If we're fighting amongst ourselves, well, we don't have time to fight the real enemy now, do we? Our true enemy is ourselves. That's very true. When good men do nothing, bad men get away with a lot of shit. Always waiting. Oh, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's not gotten better. As Americans, we have such a short memory span. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't remember what it was like before 9/11. Okay? That definitely changed the country. and the whole dynamic of it for a while. And we allowed the government to get a little bit too much control over us. The Patriot Bill, which was only supposed to be temporary, that still hasn't gone away. First to be used against the enemies of this country, and then they used it against us, who they figure are the true enemy of this country. The only way to fight the real problem is realize what our forefathers did with power in numbers. Bro, looks like he's about to start a cult. Oh, I'm big on the forefathers. The sacrifice that they did for us over 250 years later so that we can live the life we live. And people don't even care. Oh, they were slave owners. They were rich guys who were just trying to pad their pockets. Well, they made a lot of, the government and country they created made a lot of poor people healthy, and people were allowed to follow their dreams and become successful, and we became the mightiest and greatest country this world's ever known. And then it got hijacked. Anyway, this is why I don't usually talk about foreign stuff, except when it comes to Russia and China, because they can hurt us just as bad as we can hurt them in a moment's notice. But our problems in this country are going to destroy us. $37+ trillion in debt. Think of your household like that. Think of your household that much in debt. We're borrowing money against our unborn generations to pay for our living standards now. Like that short I made. What if you inherited debt from your parents because you, as a child, their child, was responsible for your parents' spending habits? That's how our government funds itself. Not with our money anymore. That money was spent a long time ago. The problems of this country and illegal immigration. If we would just get back to a constitutional republic instead of this democracy they keep trying to create, okay? This constitutional republic, and get back to downsize the government to one that it should be, okay? Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Treasury, and the Attorney General, okay? That's all we need. There's all this other stuff. We don't need the government in our tractors, in our semis, in our schools, in our houses, in our electric bills, okay? We don't need the government all in that, okay? You ain't know shit about politics. Everything's about politics these days. How can you not know about politics? How you go to the bathroom these days and what bathroom you use is now a political fucking talking point. But anyway, everybody's allowed to have their opinion. That's one thing about this channel. I encourage free speech completely. I will never delete any comments or statements. You want to come on here and act like a child? That's fine. The rest of the chat will see it. No problem. I'm not going to stop you. Okay? But, I do check that box before I go live saying, no, this is not meant for children. And I guess there's some adults out there that didn't get that message. Anyway, let's go on to the second subject. A whole month to celebrate the downfall of our society. Okay, and this before I get started. Okay, all these LGBTQA people that want to live in a democracy. Okay, you'd rather have a constitutional republic where you're allowed to exercise your lifestyle as you please, as long as you're not infringing on somebody else's rights. But see, in a democracy, what are you, 0.5% of the population of the United States? I wouldn't go for a democracy, okay? Because you need 50.1%, okay? In a constitutional republic, you're protected under the law. In a democracy, you wouldn't be. So all you people, LGBTQA, that want a democracy, you need to rethink that, because the Constitution is what protects you right now. A democracy they'll get rid of you in a second, okay? Remember, North Korea is a democracy. Anyway, so we got a whole month to celebrate the downfall of our society. And I don't think it's wrong for me to discuss this and be stern about this, okay? Now, it's not like when I was growing up, there weren't people that were gay and thought they were women and all this other stuff. But it was kept quiet. Everybody has their things that doesn't fit in with society all that great. We all have our little quirks. And back when I was growing up, you were taught to keep them quiet, okay? You want to be yourself, that's fine. But, you know, the whole world doesn't need to know about it. Nowadays, that's the first thing that they sit there and got to tell you, all right? Mothership is coming in a month. Are you talking alien mothership? Hey, if you believe that, go check my alien abductions, Are You a Victim video. You might like that. I think the mothership already got me. But anyway, back to the Juneteenth, okay? What happens if we had a month where that heterosexual straight people got to celebrate their sexuality in that month? Wouldn't that be great? Be a lot of babies 9 months later. But hey, it's only fair and equitable that the straight people should have a holiday like that too. And then we should have our own flag. What do you think? What do you think? And then to keep it sane, I think it should fly on the same flagpole as that the pride flag flies on. What kind of politics do aliens have? I'm not sure. If they're smart politics, they get as far away from this planet as possible. I mean, could you imagine being an alien race, severely, highly sophisticated and cultured, to come down here and try to contaminate your culture at all with any of the silly stuff that they see? I don't think so. I'm not saying I don't think they exist, because I do. I'm just saying, why would they make contact with us? We haven't matured to that level yet. Anyway. Keep going. This is rich. But anyway, yeah. Why don't heterosexuals? Why don't we get our own month? A whole month. You know, what are we going to have for our parades? Oh, you're going to have families with floats celebrating family stuff, going down a parade. Nobody's naked. Nobody's dressed in provocative clothes. Nobody's riding bikes. Nobody's trying to groom anybody. It'd just be, you know, a family parade, right? Wow. And then, like I say, 9 months later, there'd be a baby boom. We're having a problem with babies being born, right? Maybe that'd be one way to end it. We could have a baby boom every 9 months or once a year. We have a month of celebration for heterosexual straight people to celebrate their sexuality, and we're good to go. Anybody? I know it's silly, but, you know, I am so sick and tired. You know, you want to be that way, fine, but why would you, in your right mind, ride a bicycle wearing nothing that's showing everything in front of kids and thinking that's, I mean, it's just, there's something wrong there. At some point, you got to realize I'm acting stupid. And I'm going to, you know, not show everybody how retarded I can act. Okay? At some point, common sense has to kick in and realize that when you're seeing the horror faces of these people on the street, they're not into this. Okay? Yeah, what's your favorite racial slur? Let it fly. I'm not a racist. I haven't lowered myself to that intelligence level where I'm lower myself to the lowest common denominator that a human being can possibly be divided on. See, this is the stuff you watch, like a Jacqueline Crockett. Hate your neighbor, hate Whitey, hate everybody, but they're not racist. Okay? The first thing you see about somebody is their race, but they're not racist. Okay? The first thing they determine on the worth of somebody is their skin color, but they're not racist. We here in the real world, you know, us men that get our hands dirty every day, we don't give a shit what color you are, where you come from, because you're working just as hard as I am. And you're not racist either. A lot of you city folk need to come out here into the small town area and see that the whole world's not like you. Like I say, I can go all the way. I work 2.5 hours north of where I live. And I'm gone for 5 or 6 days at a time. And I don't have to lock my doors. I don't have to take the keys out of my vehicles. Do you live in that? And I come back and everything's just the same as it was when I left. Because here, strangers get watched. If they get out of hand, they get escorted out. See, we all know it's everybody's responsibility to make sure the neighborhood's safe, okay? And when you live in a county that has less than 2,000 people in it, it's pretty easy to do to keep the riffraff out. Okay? And we're not afraid to speak the truth and speak our minds. If you don't fit in, we're going to tease you. I'm sorry. Nice, cool, clean fun, but hey. Anyway, hey, we're 40 minutes into this. If you'd hit the like and subscribe and hit that thumbs up, that notification bell, get this channel growing, I'd appreciate it. YouTube slamming down because, you know, I gave out a few shorts today just on my stance on this month that we're going to have to endure for the next 30 days. And YouTube doesn't want nothing to do with that. You know, no opinion that goes against the narrative. Don't they know those days are over? Don't they know that the American people voted that they've had enough of this shit? To the people in Adidas and jumpsuit, illegals need to go out of America. Yeah. No, we need to enforce the law, like I told the sheriff here. I was having a discussion with him, and I'm glad you brought up this illegals. Okay. I had a discussion with him, and we have Interstate 80 that goes by the town. Okay. And he told me that when they stop illegals, even if it's a car full and nobody has a license and stuff, they call INS. INS will not come and pick them up, and they have to let them go. Okay? That's straight from the sheriff's mouth. And I kept asking the sheriff. I said, how many illegals are in this county right now that you're not doing nothing about? Because I was getting on him about him not doing his job. You know, picking what laws they're going to enforce and stuff. Okay? Looks like the original Doom guy. You really think you're helping? I don't know. I'm helping myself. The world's messed up. Okay? Am I helping? Are you here listening? If you're on YouTube looking for this type of material, you must think that we need help. You must think something's not good, something's not right, unless you're just here to make snide comments. But there's some people, I'm not going to help everybody, but I'll help some people. There'll be some people out there that feel like me and say, hey, I found this guy, thinks like me. I can sit there, and I know I'm not alone. We all need to band together. Like I say, your neighbor's not your enemy, all right? But these illegals leaving, we need to enforce the law, all right? All these families that have to deal with this on a personal basis now that have lost their loved ones due to rape and murder or car accidents or whatever the case may be, lost their house to them. These people are on the front line dealing with this stuff right now. Okay? They understand it now. They don't care what politician, whether there's a D or R by their name. All they care about is they want to get the illegals out. What is your neighbor an illegal? No. Actually, I don't. My neighbor is quite a ways away, but we're all Americans here. Like I say, the county's just pretty big. I would just razzing the cop, but the way he wouldn't answer it tells me there's a few illegals in this county, probably in the town, probably getting benefits from us and stuff, but whatever. But yeah, they need to go. Or if they don't want to go, then we sit there and build these camps out in the desert like we did prisoner of war camps during World War II, or the intern camps that we kept the Japanese in, the Japanese American citizens. And then in 1943 went to them and asked their young men to go fight in our war in Italy against Germany. Yeah, those guys. But if we go out and build those camps, and then they can go to work for us for free, and and when they decided that they didn't want to work for us for free no more, we get them down to the board and say, don't ever come back, or next time you're never going to leave that camp. Okay? And if you think our ways are tough, just illegally go to Mexico and want to stay there, see what happens. When somebody chases you out of this country, you'll feel sorry. Nobody's going to chase me out of this country. If you're in the city, watch some of my shorts. You don't realize how big the West is. Okay? And for guys like me who know like a lot of spots like the back of my hand, okay, chase us out, whatever, we got a military, the biggest military in the world is all us vets that have been created in the last 50 years in this country, can run all the equipment, tactically trained and stuff, yeah. And we're all conservative and love the Constitution and stuff, yeah. I pity the dog and pony show that the other people are going to have to go through. Everybody, war is a very physically demanding sport. And let's just say that today's society isn't even close to in shape to get off the couch. Okay. Anyway, and then when they don't got it up here. But anyway, let's get back to the society breaking down, okay? I don't want to get into the war talk because all I do is get these comments on YouTube, and none of these people have ever been in the combat, never been in service like the Marine Corps, traveled the world, and got to see the bad parts of the world. But they're all Call of Duty warriors. We'll see how that works out for you when you can't press the reset button. All right? You guys don't even know how to properly fire a machine gun, sectors of fire, rate of fire, sustained rate of fire, area targets, point targets. You don't know shit about that, working as a group. But don't worry, I played Call of Duty my whole life. I got this down. Anyway, but, I'm crying. If I was as sensitive as a freaking liberal, boy, you got to be thick-skinned. I'm thick-skinned anyway. That's one thing about these liberals. They're so thin-skinned that a little bit of, microaggression me. I have a right to harm you. You looked at me wrong. I know you meant to do some harm to me. And they're all wimps. They've never been in a fight in their life. Okay, they're wimps. They don't stand a chance. Okay? And then they're going to come out here and create some ruckus? Okay, you're going to be surrounded by thousands of people that work together and know how to use guns. What the hell are you going to do? Shit your pants and run the other way. You know, us country folk don't mess around out here. You know, you got to be tough to survive out here. You're filming this? Well, good. I hope you put it on X and it goes viral. Or your TikTok. Oh, you can't put it on TikTok because TikTok will erase it. Okay? But I'm glad you're filming it. Whatever it takes to get the word out, dude. You want me to go Alex Jones on you? I'll really get nuts. This country's full of a bunch of pussies, whacked out morons. Okay? It's time we get our spine back. And you got a bunch of faggots who get to celebrate a whole month and be weird. Okay? And I got to listen to this shit by a bunch of people that can't even wipe their noses. Are you filming that? This isn't the platform for pussies. This is for real men here and real women who want to solve problems. And the problem isn't hating each other. Everybody's going to have to toughen up. If you're on here complaining about how the economy sucks so bad and you can't make it, you're not tough. You're not ready. Okay? If you got to go to the doctor all the time because you're not healthy, because you live a cheap-ass lifestyle, you're not ready. Okay? If you're dependent on everybody for anything, you're not ready. Believe me, I can go Alex Jones. I'd have had a channel canceled because YouTube got too upset because of the truth. You know, I'm not going to tell somebody what they want to hear. Okay, because I never grew up that way. We grew up here and nobody cares about your feelings. Get it done. We grew up where people expected stuff out of us and it had to be done right. Nowadays, you expect somebody to do a job right. I mean, these employers are so afraid to demand perfection out of somebody, except old guys like me, because they're afraid they'll walk off. And I'm like, good. They're in the goddamn way anyway. I hate doing jobs with somebody when it'd be faster to do it myself. But that's what we live in. But don't worry. They all grew up tougher than us. Remember that. This 57-year-old cannot work these 25-year-olds. But don't worry. They grew up tougher than us. They don't know what tough is. They don't know what poor is. They don't know what sacrificing is. They don't know what challenging themselves is or pushing themselves to the just extreme where you should have died and you still kept going. Okay? Filming me like I'm supposed to. That's supposed to like hurt me. Believe me, everybody knows what Tom is like. My kids know. You piss me off too bad, this is what you see. And all of a sudden, the passive Tom they were used to get settled down and harnessed real quick. Because I also know how to defend myself. I don't take shit. Nobody should have to take shit. If you're flat out getting in a conversation to create hate and discontent and shit for somebody, expect the beat down. I don't take meds. I take nothing. I mean, I don't have to take nothing. I don't go to the doctor. You know what would help? If America decided to get their heads back on straight, decide to live in a free country, forget about the dollar bill for a little bit, realize that it's not going to, the more money you make isn't going to ensure that the country goes on forever. And that, our jobs of being good stewards of this country is to make sure that the future generations have a country that they get to enjoy. All right? Is that a bad thing? I mean, you stand up. I always say Superman these days would be told to sit in the corner and shut up and be tolerant if he started saying truth, justice, in the American way. Oh my God, that's just terrible. Nowadays his costume would probably be rainbow colored. Anyway. No, this channel's here to spread the word. I don't care what you say. I'm a lone wolf. If you don't agree with me, I really don't care. I'll sit out here by myself. You're not forced to watch this. That's one thing as conservatives, we're confident in how we believe that we don't need other people to believe it. And we don't need to sit there and forcibly make people listen to it like communists do. Here, sit in this chair and watch this overhead projector and listen to this recording for the next year. And you'll come out thinking just like us. But don't worry, we didn't force you. Choice. Tom, did you live a life you wanted? Yeah, I did. I wanted to be a Marine ever since I was in the 8th grade. And I went in. Now, I didn't get to stay in for 20 years because when Clinton came to office, then they cut all the services. I got caught in the force reductions, and since I had 8 years in, I got $12,000 in severance pay and a thank you. Here, welcome to the civilian world. So I wasn't happy about not being able to finish my career in the Marine Corps. And then civilian world, let's just say, well, it was tough on me at first. I didn't fit in. I still don't fit in. I still suffer from it. But, I got treated like a Vietnam vet when I got back. I got really resentful for it and stuff. But now, I had my family. I had my kids. My kids love me. I think every parent is successful if all their kids love them when they die. And I got beautiful grandkids, and I'm out here with no responsibilities raising a family no more. And I don't have any debt. I have my car insurance, my automobile insurance, and my cell phone bill. That's it. So I'm financially free, and I have a small fencing business, and I get to travel the country and be out in these wide open pastures and stuff. And when I get to take my lunch, and I'm just out there by myself enjoying wildlife, like I say, watch some of my shorts. I'm going back up to northern Nebraska here to these pastures. Watch some of my shorts. It's incredible, the beauty out there. And like I say, when people want to get their gander up and think these big city folk are going to come out here and raise a ruckus, they don't understand how wide open and big the West is. And I don't even live not out in Utah or Wyoming or, that Nevada where it's really wide open, okay? God reveals all secrets, Tom. Big sky country. Yeah. Every Sunday I try to do one of my shorts, a religious theme, and I got next Sunday's really good. But I try to do a religious theme. I do believe in God. I do believe in Christ. And I do believe that you should live your life, the short time you live on this earth, so that your soul can experience what it's like to be a good human being. Okay. This very short time we live here. And I want to make sure, and the older you get, of course, you want more gold stars by your name than pieces of coal, right? So I think that's one reason, too, when you get older and you mature. And you see this, when your kids do silly stuff, you realize how silly you were when you did that type of stuff. And, you mature watching your kids mature and stuff. It's a process of growing, okay? But, I'm going to serve God and do the best I can. And, hopefully I can, are you going to make a difference on YouTube? I don't know if I'm going to make a difference. I know if all of us on YouTube conservatives are trying to change the tide where things are going. If we don't, there isn't going to be no YouTube no more. I know I didn't. But I didn't make a difference. But I can say I tried, okay? That was the thing. I was out in the Sandhills in Nebraska on the ranch just waiting for the end to come. And then Oliver Anthony had to put that song out. And I started feeling guilty for being completely prepared, completely ready for anything to happen, and I'd survive. And I was just going to sit there and watch humanity falter while I did nothing. And that's when I started getting on YouTube. I was never on social media. Not like I couldn't sit in front of a group of people and discuss a subject. But I never would have thought of this. I was never a tech guy. What do you think about trans people having adopted children? The thing is, why should there be a question on the application? Are you trans? Why should that even be on there? Who cares? This is the thing. Why should your personal business, especially when it comes to that, why do I have to know about it? And be flaunted down the street in a parade. I'm just saying. They would never stand for heterosexuals doing that, having a nice, calm, decent-looking parade, dressed up in suits and stuff. That would never be allowed. You know, a few Bibles and statues of Christ, that would never be allowed. And you guys talk about expressing yourselves. Okay, you express yourself on who you hate, what you dislike, and what you like. The same thing that I should be allowed to do. Okay? Anyway, and I know all trans people don't think like the image that they're trying to portray. Okay? Because I know a trans individual that was a conservative. And before the election, had a YouTube channel and made a positive video about Trump. What do you think they did to him? Canceled him. Put him under the prison. Canceled his email address like he never existed. So don't tell me what your side does to your own side. I've seen it. Okay? But anyway, it's a downfall of society. When we have a month that celebrates this stuff, that's completely against our culture, how it was established, a Christian culture. Okay? And we got to accept it. Bullshit. Since when am I forced to accept anything? Okay? I don't know where that's written anywhere. Okay? The reason you think you need me to accept it is because you can't accept what you're doing yourself. And if I can get one person that really don't believe in it to believe it, then my conscience is clear. Christianity is a fake? Are you saying all religions are fake? You know, Jesus is a historical figure. If you didn't know that, he is a historical figure, okay? And he actually did die on a cross. Okay, there is some history in the Bible. So, you know, and in the Romans writings, I don't know where to go with that. But all I know is one man stood up to the system at the time. One man stood up to the system that his own people had and said, this is bullshit. And he had some people following him that believed him. And all of a sudden, he had to die. So, anyway. Another way of looking at it, more of a realistic thing instead of a Bible-thumping way of doing it, huh? The way human beings really are. You know, this is what happens when you kick against the pricks. The people that want to control you. But like I say, it's just another way to divide us. But all I got to say is you transgender people. You do not want a democracy. You're only 0.5% of the population. Your constitutional republic you have right now that allows you to live like you do will protect you. The democracy they want to create, either side wants to create, will not allow your behavior. Remember that. who you're supporting. You know, the average American doesn't give a shit what you do in your bedroom, as long as you're not hurting nobody, okay? But, you know, they can use it to divide us. You know, all I care about, like I say, are you a hard worker? Now, I remember working with this guy for years. And he told me like 3 years just before I quit, he goes, you know I'm gay. I said, no, I never had no idea. 3 years! Because we never discussed it. It wasn't important. He didn't have the classic traits of it. And he never hit on me or nothing. I never felt uncomfortable around him. Now, I wish he never would have told me. But, you know, that was getting into where, hey, it's important that you know this about me. He was playing the big game, the long game. No, he was just, you know, I think guys that are really gay and are attracted to other guys know that when they meet a guy that isn't attracted to other guys, and they respect that other guy's decision in his space and don't act in such ways that would make somebody feel uncomfortable, just like they wouldn't want somebody to make them feel uncomfortable. It's called respecting each other's feelings. Oh my goodness. Why would we want to do that in this country today? Anyway, we get into people's too much business because we see it from the government. The government allows, come out of the closet. I tell you what, I got 3 ex-wives. No way. No way. Maybe in my travels through the mountain, I'll find some mountain lady out there that wants to cook me supper twice a year or something. But I got too much stuff I want to do in the next 40 years. That'll just complicate things, okay? I guess I have bigger priorities in relationships. I really don't trust people, okay? You know, I've been hurt the worst by the people that said they love me the most. He is giving you flattery. Tom, please respond to getting to gobbledygook. No, I'm not watching all of it. This is the thing, okay? If somebody's in the feed, and I may have to get some moderators, this is YouTube. See, YouTube wants to destroy any creator that goes against what they believe. And I put on this, you know, about Juneteenth. I'm against it. I'm against any special group having a whole month to celebrate the depravity of our society. Okay, I don't care what group it is. The Ku Klux Klan. It don't matter. You know, you're American. You should enjoy every day. But see, we need all this crazy stuff to distract us. But, you know, I may have to get some moderators. But see, this is what YouTube brings these people in, these trolls in. People that are very unhappy with their lives. And they don't have a problem creating hate and discontent because they're doing nothing but sitting in their mama's basements, what they never moved out of. And they hit pages, channels like this in between their porn channels, okay? And they talk real big and they're nothing but couch potatoes, okay? You know, like Brad Paisley, Online, that song. Okay? See, if they were real people, they would be out here like me, face to face with you like I am, making other shorts, showing what you do and stuff, instead of this hiding behind a made-up name with a bunch of other shit. And I'm supposed to fear them? Like that guy, I'm taping you. Good. Make sure it goes viral. That's one way to get the word out. Okay? So threatening me with your taping me doesn't bother me a bit. It didn't bother Shiloh Hendricks now, did it? I heard she was a jarhead too. I don't know about that. But if she was, that son of a bitch was lucky that he got away with her just walking away and not kicking his ass. Strictly cycling. Trump can't even explain how it works. What are we talking about, Strictly Psych? Good to see you. I know you want a house hog. Yeah, I tell you what, Strictly Cycling, my live streams have really picked up lately. And, I get some haters in here. And that's Strictly Cycling. He's a liberal from New York City. Okay, we definitely don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we're civil to each other. He's a 65-year-old in shape, physical fitness guy. Physical trainer. Okay, takes care of himself. See, we still have things in common, but we don't agree on a lot of things. But then again, he grew up in North Dakota on a dairy farm. Okay, and I tell you what, North Dakota is one cold ass state. All right. But anyway, what state do you live in, Tom? I'm in Nebraska. I live in the panhandle of Nebraska. I live in southern Nebraska in the farmland, wheat farmland and stuff, some pivot corn and stuff. And then I work up in the pastures up in northern Nebraska in cattle country and stuff. So, and then that's just one job I'm doing now. I was only going to be there for a few weeks, but they got a lot of work for me. Like I say, I do fencing. Nobody wants to do fencing no more. They can't get people to do fencing. And I'm talking about not building new fence, but we're going to start building some new fence. I'm just talking about driving around these pastures, following the line, the fence line, and repairing what needs to be repaired, putting posts in, fixing wire, that type of stuff. And I tell you what, check my shorts out. It's awesome. Peace and tranquility. Build the wall. This is really a good job. A gay job, I don't care if you don't like it. A lot of people don't like it. That's why I got job security. Okay? And any job that makes you happy and fits your pursuit of happiness is a job for you. I've had jobs where I made lots of money. I had jobs where I had a cubicle and stuff. Screw that. I'd rather be happy. You know that thing that people used to be? Happy? Okay? Nobody's happy anymore. Everybody chases that dollar bill that ain't worth anything. Really? I'm out there, my blood pressure's low. Why? Because I'm out there relaxed. I get on here, this is how I handle my PTSD. I'm on YouTube. I get to vent and stuff. Okay, I get to sit there and get on here. Hopefully, a politician will watch us and want to say, "Yeah, that's one pissed off guy." Like that guy that said he's filming me. That's one pissed off guy. Whatever it takes. Okay, if I gotta get crazy to get a reaction out of you because I'm getting pushed around too much, I will. I'm not afraid to get nuts. I guarantee you. You think you're an asshole? I'm 10 times the asshole you are. And I try to tell everybody that. And I'm a very passive guy until I get pushed. Woo! And then it stops. I don't want to go crazy again. I tell you what. People say that my eyes have glowing red when I have gotten really pissed and stuff. How's a Marine supposed to get when he sees his country falling apart and the citizens of this country being abused, in many ways, financially. I mean, everybody else is allowed to break the law except the American citizen. You better wear your seatbelt or we're going to pull you over. And if you're not an illegal, we're going to give you a ticket. But if you're an illegal, we'll just let you go because we're not going to waste time on you. Who's responsible for the collapse? Well, that's been going on for a long, long time. I would say, it started definitely in Woodrow Wilson with the creation of the Federal Reserve and the IRS. How much buying power has the dollar lost since the Federal Reserve was created? 98, 99%. So we can go all the way back to when Woodrow Wilson was in office. 1913 to 1921, okay? Not a problem, right? This just didn't happen because one president took over and decided to get a little crazy for a while. It was Reagan. I'll tell you one thing about Reagan. Like I say, he was the first president to remember that $1 trillion mark. Oh, no, we couldn't handle the $1 trillion in debt. It was just going to break this country. And then on October 16th, 1983, we went over $1 trillion in debt. And I guess that was just the door we had to open for our country to go financially stupid and throw financial principles out the window. Okay, and all these endless wars. I mean, study Rome. That's where we're headed. And when people were talking about, well, let's let these illegals in, and they can serve in our military. And then they can get their citizenship through that. So we're going to protect our border with our enemies, just like Rome did. And then, if you were a country like, I don't know, some shithole country, and you wanted well-trained troops, well, you just send all your military-age guys to the United States, knowing that they were going to get in the military, get all this great training, and then they could go back to their countries. Stupid. I don't want to be in a foxhole next to a foreigner with an American uniform on. I'd be watching him more than I'd be watching the enemy downrange. Tom is a follower, not a leader. Oh, no, come on, Strictly Cycling. I just try to keep nobody can handle my leadership because I demand too much out of people. I just demand out of people what I demand out of myself. And that's too much for today's world. Believe me, I was a good sergeant in the Marine Corps. My guys would have followed me through hell. I was very much respected. But I found out in the civilian world that was shunned upon, okay? He will take ye mark of the beast, Elon Musk. What's the mark of the beast? Okay. Is it going to be the chip that everybody's going to be forced to take? Okay. No, I'm not going to become a servant to the devil or anybody. I'll die on the cross before that happens. Daddy Elon marks all his good boys. Why does everybody hate Elon Musk so much? I mean, he's just another business guy who wants to make money. He got into politics, and I think he's learned his lesson. He'll never do that again. He realized politicians can't be trusted no matter what side of the aisle they're on. And that's one thing. These rich guys give to both parties, just like Trump did. He gave to both parties campaign contributions. Many pictures of him with Democrats, okay? That's how they do it. Whatever politician they can get influence with, that's the one they give money to. Yeah, well, Kelsey Gabbard used to be a Democrat too, and she seems like she's the only one that seems to want to get the job done right where she's at. Kelsey Gabbard. Democrat, Republican. We're all Americans. Can we stop following this two wings of the same bird? I mean, Trump's going into debt up to the biggest budget, one big bill, right? Just like the Democrats, spend money we don't have. But since he's in office, it's okay. But the Republicans and now the Democrats are bitching about it. He's cutting social program. See, this is what I was told back in the 90s when I first got out of the service. And I was thinking about getting into politics. And I was dealing with this congressman from Minnesota. And he goes, the only reason that they want the charge of the presidency is so they can control how the money's spent for the next 4 years. And then he laughed and said, you have no idea how much money there really is. Okay. Democrat or Republican, it's still the same screwed up government they're forcing down our throats, not the government that our founding fathers installed for us. That government's gone. This is big bloated, borrowing money from, living our lifestyle from money from future generations that haven't even been born yet. And we're just following the path of Rome. But since they don't teach history no more, that don't really matter, does it? Money is power. Red, blue, same shit. Money is an illusion. Power is an illusion. If you think you have power and control over me, come and show me. Okay? Because I have freedom of will. If the FBI and ATF show up here at 6 a.m. for a no-knock raid and I don't make it through it, okay, they didn't have power over me. They just, created a situation where they could destroy me. Okay, if you got to destroy somebody, that means you didn't have power over them. You couldn't control them. That's what these people want. They want to control people. The more they would rather control everybody than destroy a lot of people. But the ones they can't control, they'll destroy them, not a problem. Tom, it's becoming more and more apparent that you have some major mental issues. Oh, no. It's just called enduring the twilight zone for quite a while. Okay? This is why I have jobs where I stay away from society. See, I'm a lone wolf. I don't trust human beings. Human beings are the most destructive things in the universe has ever created. Okay, I can go out to the woods and deal with a grizzly bear, and I'm going to know what to expect. With a human being, you don't know that. They could come up to you with a smile on your face, their face all friendly and stuff, with a knife behind their back. They're going to stab and throw into your chest. And like I say, human beings just destroy everything they touch. Okay? But anyway, yeah, I'm a lone wolf. That was my channel that got canceled, Lone Wolf Prepper. And then my other channel is Lone Wolf Prepper Lives. Okay, I'm a Sigma male. I've had it with society. My dream, my retirement is to live next to a stream in a dugout in the mountains with my horses and dogs, living totally independent from the system. Who has a retirement plan like that? Oh, nobody. So you're telling me I'm a little different? No shit! What was your first fucking clue? But then again, what is normal? Men can have babies. Okay? That's what's normal these days. Kids can be fluffies. I got a grandson that's got to go to school with litter boxes in their rooms because he's got 2 kids that think they're furries. Now, I'm sorry. Who's got the mental illness now? See, if you guys, the younger generation, are going to accuse us old timers because of the way we were raised, because if we would act like you morons, we would have went home and got punished and corrected for acting wrong, you can call us mentally ill all day long. I don't really care. But all I know is a lot of our generation is going to see our children die because they can't take care of themselves. Okay. And if you want to say I have mental illness, are you a doctor? Are you a PhD? Or are you just a liberal that is so tolerant that you don't accept anything except liberal mindset stuff? That Constitution thing, that thing's outdated. Okay. Yeah, I can get nuts. Everybody hit the like and subscribe, please. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell. You want to see nuts? I'll be the new Alex Jones. Maybe Alex Jones got that way because he had to deal with so many liberals that thought they knew the facts, and Alex Jones was screaming the truth, and everybody told me he was full of shit. Maybe people need to get a little nuts. Because when stuff all falls down, when the sky all falls on us, and this is one thing about war. Nobody gives a shit about your feelings. Okay? Like we grew up, nobody cares about your feelings. Just get it done. Your cry room and your safe room isn't going to save you. Okay? Your weakness isn't going to save you. But what's normal in today's world? I don't know what the hell's normal. All I know is I live in the twilight zone. Rod Sterling is up in heaven right now thinking, God, look at all these episodes I could have had. These people are living beyond what I could even come up with. Am I lying? He never even had an episode where they turned a man into a woman. They never had an episode like that because that was so outlandish back then that nobody even would have thought of that stuff. But now I'm supposed to think that's acceptable. If I don't, I have mental illness. If I get up, stand up for myself and get a little excited, I have mental illness? Really? You're telling a Marine, a combat Marine, that he has mental illness. But don't worry. The VA says I'm just fine. This is how insane these liberal people are, man. Decorated veteran. The thing is, they don't think like us. All these politicians and civilians think they know what's best for the military, and they've never been in there. Okay, I don't even like the draft. I don't think you should have to force somebody to do that unless their own soil gets attacked. But I would never want it to serve somebody who was forced to be there. Tom Marine is supposed to be the control of emotions and their temper. Clearly, you aren't able to do so. I don't know. I guess you've been watching too much of the propaganda. Maybe you need to spend some time in the barracks for a while. We're nothing but a bunch of high-strung people waiting for glass to be broke, you dumbass. How do you think you act in combat? Oh, can I act? I'm going to walk and be real gently and stuff. I mean, lost in space. You turn a civilian into a Marine and put him through all that stuff, but you can't turn him back into a civilian. But see, I realize that. And I realize that the public shouldn't have to be subject to people like me. And that's why I do the job I do, where I stay away from people. Because I don't want people to have to endure me. And I don't want to have to endure them. Because I'm not afraid to say what I think. I'm never politically correct. I didn't social distance. I didn't wear a mask. I never got a shot. I went to work every day. That tells you how much I like playing the game Simon Says. I stand up for myself. That's what a lot of people don't do these days. And when you do stand up for yourself, you have people say, well, there's something wrong with you. You're getting too nuts. I'm going to sit there and keep stabbing you with a pin. And you can stand there and do nothing, and I'm extremely passive. But when I've had enough, you're going to find out I had enough. And then it's like, what are you doing? I didn't do anything. What are you getting all nuts about? Typical liberal, right? Typical liberal. I can poke all day long, but I'm not going to take it. See, we're going to go to war with a bunch of people that can't even handle being looked at wrong, okay? They don't understand the stresses they're going to endure, but they want to take all of us on. Okay, this is the thing. You think I'm nuts? Do you want to be on the other side while I have a gun and have to deal with me when I'm nuts? Are you that brave? Are you? I don't have a problem being nuts. Keeps you alive. Keeps you on edge. Keeps you observant of what's going on. Keeps people keeps people away from you. Keeps the danger away. You understand? I don't present myself as a victim, now do I? No moron would want to come up to me and try to victimize me, would they? Because I would be, that guy looks like an asshole. He looks like a tough target. But you go ahead and be calm and fit along and all that other stuff. And don't worry about bad stuff that happens to you. I'm screwy, get back, nuts. Is that the general consensus? I'm nuts? So does that mean that I can file for Social Security saying that people on YouTube say I'm nuts? So I can sit there and get to live a life of sitting on my ass the rest of the time, and I can become a total scumbag and, become just not an asset to myself, but become just something that my neighbor has to take care of? Yeah, Tom, it's official. You are, in fact, not so out of your mind and that shit crazy. Oh, I tell you what, I'm ready for the fight. See, a lot of people don't understand. As I saw this in 1994, when I got out of the service, when I was forced out, and it was like I went from when Ronald Reagan was in office 8 years to Bill Clinton's in office when I get out. It's like I went through a time warp, and I was able to see everything. I was out of the bubble looking in, and I could see the path 31 years ago this country was taking. And I would tell people, just like 9/11, I told people for years, from 1994, for 7 years, that they're going to get us. I was told I was crazy. Never happened. Well, I was right now, wasn't I? I've been preparing since then because I see how people are, okay? And I see the path we're taking. I didn't realize it was going to have to they would get this bad and people would just sit idly by and not do anything. I thought the people would have stood up in this country long before 2008. We need to pass this bill or we're going to have pitchforks and torches in the streets tomorrow, okay? When they really started robbing us blind. But no, we became so passive. So why am I nuts? Because I've seen it coming. Everything, well, it's gone past that. It's gone past 2020. Showed me that the average American, as long as you don't mess with them too bad, take some of their freedoms, but do it slow and incrementally and, give them a good reason for it, they'll give up anything. And we become so passive. And even us conservatives that are just looking for the right spark, the right justification, where we can take our country back, where we can get nuts and act up and do what the Declaration of Independence charges us to do. Okay, it's no longer you have a choice. It charges us to throw off this government and install new guards to protect our freedoms. Okay, but America obviously doesn't understand the country that our founding fathers gave us, and they're not ready to fight for yet. So, whatever. I've realized that. So I'm on YouTube. All right? I'm not out in the mountains hermiting out, waiting for the end to come. All right? So anyway, DC don't want him. What attack? Bernie tried that. Tom, Trump loves you, mega. I tell you what, Trump ain't going to be the savior of this country. It's going to be somebody that comes out of their field or out of their factory or whatever their profession is to lead us. It's going to be a situation of circumstance that's going to throw somebody into the destiny that they have to fulfill. But it ain't going to be Trump, okay? It's going to be somebody that looks at the system and says, fuck you, I don't care, I've had enough, and we got enough people behind us that's had enough, and you guys are gone. It ain't nobody in D.C. because the first thing we need to do is get somebody who doesn't care about the fucking ass green piece of paper. That's number one. Can't give a shit about that. He's got to give a shit about his family and his fellow Americans and their future. And being good stewards of this country to pass it on to the future generations, for them to be good stewards to continue passing on our country. And then somebody that will give up power just as easily as the people gave it and go back to his fields and do his plowing. Just like the guy in Roman history, when Rome first started out, when it didn't even have the whole Buddha Italy yet. Leonidas, I think was his name. I'm not sure. Pulled him out of the fields. Put him in power. Fought the enemy, conquered him. And then he gave up the throne and went back to work in his fields. What politician do we got like that? Which one? None of them. Somebody said on here earlier, money is power. Really? A green piece of paper? You will allow somebody who has a green piece of paper to have control over you? Are you nuts? In my lifetime, I have stood up to plenty of rich men, and I just left their jaw drop because they couldn't believe that this commoner, poor guy could ever talk to them like that. Okay? Because I don't let nobody push me the hell around, especially somebody on YouTube that isn't going to make a video so I can see their face. You know, I don't have a problem standing up for myself at all. Ever. You know, I'm like a Japanese soldier. I made a short about this. They said in World War II, you know, you could surround 80,000 Germans and they'd surrender. But 80,000 Marines could surround one Japanese soldier and he wouldn't surrender. Welcome to my thought process. I'm not going to surrender to these pieces of garbage. I'll die standing on my feet all day long. Do you think I'd rather die standing on my feet than live on my knees for the next 40 some years to a government that wants me to be subservient. And probably old people anyway, when they take off, well, you're not useful no more. We'll just make sure you disappear. Okay? Is there something wrong with being that way? Something wrong with standing up for yourself? Something wrong to standing up to evil and say, I'm not going to deal with this? Something wrong with standing up for your kids? Something wrong with standing up for your neighbor or your fellow American and not thinking they're your enemy like your politician says? Is there something wrong with standing up for somebody who doesn't agree with you? Really? I never thought that was wrong. If somebody's being wronged by somebody, I'm going to stand up for them. I don't care what their political beliefs are. I don't care if they're transgender or gay or black or whatever. Wrong is wrong, and you got to defend against wrong. Well, tell me what's wrong with that thought process. Is that crazy? Or listening to Jacqueline Crockett and believing what she says, is that crazy? Okay? Mass slipping, what's that mean? I'm turning into something else? No, I'm just a caring individual. I want us all to get along. I had friends in the military. My three main friends were, one was black, one was Mexican, and one was a hillbilly from North Carolina. And guess what? We all got along. God, isn't that so strange? How the hell could you have got along? And nobody cared what your color was. You know, I guess when I interacted with minorities, the ones I did, a lot of them, and the people from other countries, nobody cared what your color or race was. Okay? All they want to do is talk to another human being. Anyway, I'm not racist. I have a black friend argument. I'm not racist. Oh, you say because I have a black friend, I'm not racist. Oh, okay. So how do you determine if you're racist? By the number of people you hate that's that color? Well, let's see. I hate a lot of white people. I guess I'm racist against my own race. No, people that see race, the first thing about somebody, and they make a judgment and determine on what that person's qualified to do because of their color and stuff. That's your racist, you pieces of shit. Somebody who wants to segregate somebody because of their race. Somebody who feels that somebody should be treated differently because of their race, or should be looked at differently as a human being because of their race. You're the racist piece of shit. Because you put race as a category or a barrier or something that determines how you act in your life. Me, I really don't give a shit. I work hard. I like working with people that work hard. And this is what you got to deal with. How is this country ever going to get together when I'm on YouTube trying to do a little program and I got to sit there and deal with all this hate and discontent? People that just don't want to get along. And, you know, the thing is, when they get what they want and they get the old scuffles going and the old World War III and the old Civil War and the old racist war going, you guys are going to be crying your asses off because nobody's going to give a shit about your fucking feelings. Anyway. You know, I can get crazy. You know, the enemy used to think I could get crazy too. And if you want to think like the enemy did, go ahead. I really don't care. I don't have no time for you. I mean, if you want to cause harm to me or somebody else, that's an American, just because you got microaggressions or because you just can't handle your emotions, well, then you and I might have problems. Anyway, the division in this country are just caused by social media, all these people. Hey, I want to get on here, get a few clicks and cause some hate and discontent. You look at the Carmelo Anthony thing. I mean, are you kidding me? Let's take race out of it. A 17-year-old kid stabbed another 17-year-old kid because he got asked to get out of a chair. This country's got issues. We have a bombing in Boulder, Colorado today because some people hate pro-Jew people. Really? But don't worry, those people are mentally fit. But somebody who wants to solve that problem, get people talking and get people together and, you know, realize that life isn't as bad as the politicians say it should be, and you shouldn't hate your neighbor, you know, that guy's crazy. Because he may say it in a way that I find offensive. But you know what? At least I get it through so you hear it. And that's the main thing about communication. You understand what I'm saying. Does anybody in the chat not understand what I'm saying? I appreciate everybody if they hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Let this crazy ass jarhead get on and start spouting his mouth to a bunch of other people that can sit there and say he's crazy. Go ahead. I don't care. I would rather be crazy in the Twilight Zone, because let's look at it. In the Twilight Zone episode, who was the one that was losing his mind? Who was the main character that was always losing their mind? The one that was a normal person that was in the Twilight Zone. Crazy, huh? And now we're living it. I mean, the stuff that we got as a kid, we weren't allowed to act stupid. None of us could even came up with this stuff that people are coming up with now, okay? I mean, for one thing, kids get in trouble now. They film themselves doing something illegal and then put it on social media. At least when we were kids, we were smart enough because we were kids. We weren't angels. But we were smart enough to make sure that nobody else found out about it. Okay? That's weird. I push peace to get my comment removed. Exactly. This is who YouTube promotes. People that do absolutely disgusting things on YouTube. People that promote the sky is falling. People that promote be scared of your neighbor or the next big thing, the next big disease that's coming out, because it creates fear so they can control people. They'll promote that all day long. I mean, look at our northern buddy in Canada, that prepping channel. Jeepers Cripes, the world ended 1 million times by his channel. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but that's what they're going to promote because that's what they get people to sit there and they can control it. If you're trying to sit there and do anything for peace, I mean, Martin Luther King would be shut up on social media now. Okay, the founding fathers are considered criminals nowadays, extremists, terrorists. Really? The person that gave me the ability to speak on this platform, to talk to all of you and stuff, whether you agree with me or not, and all of us the rights we have, okay? They're bad people? I mean, they gave us a great country. In the last 100 years, for sure, the politicians have been stealing it from us, hijacking it from us. Right? Because the country the founding fathers gave us is not the country we live in now. Like Thomas Jefferson said, the tree of liberty needs to be watered by the blood of tyrants and patriots every 20 years. Because that's about how long one generation, next generation comes in, and they're fighting with the other generation. And then people start forgetting what's important in life. But don't worry, the bad stuff is coming to this country. I mean, we're going to sit there and keep poking Russia? Trump, I'm going to end the war. You want to end the war, Trump? Stop giving Ukraine shit. If you didn't know nothing about this attack, then you should be on TV tomorrow saying, you're done, Ukraine. Bullshit. Going on for 18 months. Planning for 18 months. Just like 9/11. Do you think that was planned over just the time George Bush was in office as president? No. That was going on when Clinton was in office too. So 2 administrations knew that 9/11 was going to happen, and nobody did everything about it. Every 20 years, our country wouldn't get anywhere. Yeah, but look, where have we gotten? Trillions upon trillions of dollars in debt. Putting in the world in more war and chaos than the world should have to know. Okay? Making its citizens, well, just what they're doing to us. Okay? All the division they're creating. Yeah, let's look at what happened because there wasn't a war every 20 years. There should have been a war 20 years ago. You know, when I saw it in 1994, when I got out of the military, what was coming? Should have had a war back then, but people weren't awake. People still aren't awake. But the longer we wait to have this war, the more people are going to die and be affected from it all over the world, okay? Because remember what happened when Rome fell. The western part of Rome, you know, Europe and stuff like that, went into the Dark Ages. The West went into Dark Ages. What happened to the eastern part of Rome? Oh, that's right. Constantinople was glowing like crazy and just becoming prosperous. The East. Same thing's going to happen this time. You know, we want to threaten Russia with sanctions. What do they give a shit about? They're on the BRIC system. They don't need the U.S. They don't need the U.S. dollar. And the U.S. finally figures it out and we become a third world country overnight, maybe then people will wake up. Whatever it's going to take to wake up the average American, I have no idea. But it's going to have to be something crazy because we have been rocked to sleep with an easy life. Nothing's ever going to happen. We're protected from the world, from anything ever happening bad. We're good to go. And that's the way I used to think. Until I got in the Marine Corps, entered those little yellow fur prints, and started traveling the world and seeing what it was really like. And realizing in America how spoiled and how much time. Anyway, but I just didn't think it would get this bad. Holy cow, I've been going on for almost 2 hours already. This is one thing about my live stream. I'll tell you what, YouTube has lightened up on my live streams. I mean, I'm getting thousands of views on my live streams now. You know, it's not really tabulating into subscribers, but, you know, and then I get to see my view count go up. That AI algorithm they got in charge at YouTube, I mean, it's crazy. All these social media platforms. Silencing somebody. Why are we solving anybody's problems? Because everybody's being silenced. If I don't agree with you and I own this platform, I'm going to silence you. So instead of me coming together with somebody that disagrees with me and they're coming on my channel and we can come to some type of agreement, you can't have that. The last thing our government wants, and the things that would scare the shit out of them the most, is if liberals and conservatives started being on the same page when it comes to how the government acts. That scared the hell out of them. You know, cloud and pivot. You know, divide and conquer. It's the same shit been used for years. Nazi Germany. They're just trying to perfect it. They're just becoming more smooth. So people don't see it coming. And when you do wake up, especially, like, say, your daughter got killed by an illegal and raped and murdered, and you finally do wake up, wow, the bubble is not there no more. You know, I made a short once that say that the happiest person in the world is somebody who goes to bed a liberal and wakes up a conservative. All the conservative is, and these Republicans aren't true conservatives, anybody who goes through social programs and wants their neighbor to supply any part of what they need is not a conservative. But all conservative wants is the government and everybody else out of their lives. They're not going to interfere with your life either. Okay, you don't need to know nothing about me unless we spark up a conversation. And I'm not going to interfere with your life, and you're not going to interfere with mine. Okay? We want you to be able to pursue your happiness, and the government needs to go back to protecting the borders, protecting our rights that God has given us, and staying the hell out of our bedrooms, our trucks, our tractors, our schools. When they can start taking care of our borders and securing our money supply, you know, that's one thing, one of the jobs of the U.S. government is to ensure the safety of our money supply. They're the ones destroying it. Protect the borders from foreign invasion. We don't do that either. Follow the Constitution. Well, that's an outdated piece of paper. And yet we do nothing. Even us vets. I would love every conservative to sit there, or every American, to get on YouTube and make one channel, and make a channel if you just do one video and tell the government how you really feel. Okay? That's one thing, me being on YouTube, the first thing that sees it is the YouTube algorithm. And if anything bounces out that they need to look, that goes in the government agencies and it gets checked out. So the nice thing about people say, be careful what you say on YouTube. The government may hear it. Good. I want them to hear it. I want them to have the balls to come to my place and do a 6 a.m. raid, no-knock raid, and see what happens. Now, I know I'll get killed, but I'll be standing up for what I believe in. These sons of bitches ain't going to push me around. You want to be a slave to them? You want to be subordinate and subservient to another human being that you're going to let have power over you? That's fine. Go for it. Live a life like that. But don't sit there and criticize the people that say, hell no, that ain't ever going to work for me. Anyway, I've been going on for 2 hours. Like I said, I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate everybody who subscribed tonight. Hit the like, hit that notification bell. I appreciate it. We need to spread the word. Like I say, we can prevent the history that's about to come onto this world. We can prevent the evil from taking over. But good men need to act. Good men need to come together. Okay? And we need to stop waiting for it to come to us. Because slowly and slowly they'll start picking us off. Stand up for your country, you darn right. Because when you stand up for your country, you're standing up for your fellow citizen. Okay? America is a place, it's a great place. It's just been hijacked by some really evil people. And they're using our money to do it. You're going to work every day to help them support this, to give money to other countries so they can kill other citizens of other countries. At one point, we got to stop. And people say, well, we're not at war because our troops aren't there. We're paying for it. When we fought World War II, Americans paid for America fighting the war. Worked in the factories, rationed and everything. Right now, we're just not working in the factories or having our troops there. But the military-industrial complex, their factories are working overboard, making lots of money. Okay? It's crazy, but we're paying for it. And eventually, America gets what it pays for. So when paying for all this war, I hope everybody enjoys all the nukes that are going to be flying into our cities that we've paid for. Yes, that's one thing about America. We get what we paid for. So I hope nobody bitches when it starts coming out of the sky at us. Anyway, this was a great live stream. I appreciate everybody being here. And if I don't agree with you, and I may jump on you at your comment and stuff, you're allowed to jump back. Okay? That's one thing. In this, you're allowed to disagree with me just as loudly as I disagree with you. There's nothing wrong with that in today's world. You know, a lot of my friends that I've had, we started out enemies. Some of them actually fighting. Because you know what we did right away? We created boundaries with each other that we weren't going to cross. Now I'm ready for anything. Live once you got. Jesus is so good. Tom, thanks for this last year. Really mildly amusing. Oh, they erased Strictly Cycling. They erased your fucking Google's in here. I'm going to get out of here. Google's in here. This is why I hate about censorship. I hate it. I want to see even the comments I don't agree with. YouTube, Google. Anyway, they're in here now. So I appreciate everybody being in here, but I don't censor messages. I don't erase nothing. I don't have any moderators. I'm not going to do that. You can express yourself the way you want, and people are going to look at you accordingly to what you say in the comments, okay? And if you want to say something derogatory or doesn't make sense or just flat out childish, the chat needs to just ignore you. See, that's what happens when you want a child to stop acting stupid because they want attention. You just ignore them. Okay. Anyway, it's 2 hours exactly. I'm going to go. Everybody have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow from out on the ranch on my next live stream. So everybody hit that subscribe and notification button so you can see me tomorrow night. Everybody see this crazy ass Marine, like I say, I'm crazy. No shit. What the hell do you think they got to do to somebody to make a Marine do what he has to do? Got to be a little bit crazier than the average civilian, okay? Just saying. But everybody have a great night. I will see you tomorrow. I guess I'm not out of here.